Hi everyone, Kate here, and welcome back to another weekly roundup with us at Lottery Post. We're finally back in our normal studio, but anyway, this week has been quite a roller coaster for the lottery, both in the US and overseas, from winning the lottery to possibly going to jail because of it. So without further ado, here are some of the recent stories from this month that either confused us or brought a smile to our faces. A Scottish lottery player who was part of an 11-person lottery syndicate won a share of a £1 million prize in the EuroMillions Millionaire Maker drawing the day he retired. Robert Pert worked at GPG Montrose Garage and played the lottery with a bunch of other mechanics, technicians, and staff. But while they all had to go back to work the next day, Robert would be having none of that and receive the greatest exit from work of all time. Granted, it is a pool of 11 people, so each person would be getting about $90,000, and that's before taxes. So they won't all be walking away millionaires, but that is a nice sum of money to be getting while you're walking into retirement and saying sayonara to your work buddies. Everyone says they'll be using the money in different ways, from garden renovations to home improvements to cars and vacations. In the meantime, the rest of the group plans to continue working at the garage and running the lottery syndicate. This next story threw us for a loop because yes, we've all heard those stories about how winning the lottery ruined someone's life because they couldn't handle managing all that money and they went on a spending spree. But this is a case in which winning the lottery might not have actually been a good thing depending on how the case is decided at the end. Former builder Terry Woodall won $15 million playing X-Lotto in the Australian lottery, but rather than make his life easier, the prize created a situation that landed him in court. Now, Terry ran into some trouble in February 2013. Just to provide some context, around that time, a judgment in a separate case found that he had performed defective work in his hometown for another client, which might provide some context about how he also declared bankruptcy with 450,000 Australian dollars in debt and was told to pay 337,000 to his creditors. Then he wins that 15 million in the lottery. Sounds like the perfect solution to his problems, right? What better timing than that? Except he sort of gave them the finger and offered up only 100,000, more than 230,000 less than what he was told to pay to clear the debt. Of course, his creditors rejected the offer, which was kind of a slap in the face to begin with, so they slapped him right back and said they would now clear the debt and dismiss the bankruptcy charge for $1 million. But Terry agreed and paid the amount. However, the Australian Financial Security Authority didn't like that he wasn't upfront about his lottery win for his creditors in the first place, and thought that he was hiding funds between June and August 2018. So they launched an investigation against him, but in a hearing in 2021, his defense attorney Craig Caldecott claimed that Terry was not aware of an obligation to disclose a lottery win. Craig basically said what immediately comes to mind, which is that ignorance of the law is not a defense, but at the same time, Terry didn't have any fraudulent intention in the first place. The prosecutor said that he was told that he had to disclose any property, which includes lottery wins, and that he was deliberately hiding his win because he had only offered $100,000 to initially clear his debt. Terry was originally charged with concealing property with intent to defraud creditors, but pleaded guilty to a lesser charge of being bankrupt and concealing property to the value of $20 or more, which could seem fair considering he did outright pay the amount that creditors were asking for to clear his bankruptcy. Both sides thought so too because the defense and prosecution had accepted the agreement. But something along the lines of, quote, argument at the bar table occurred between all parties involved, which caused a magistrate to throw his hands up and flat out reject the deal, even though both sides were okay with it. So then prosecutors withdrew the offer for the lesser charge and reinstated the original offense, their reasoning being, oh, well, the lesser charge was serving a utilitarian purpose under COVID restrictions and made it easier to deal with court delays during the pandemic. So now that we don't really have that issue anymore, you're gonna get the harsher penalty. So despite winning the lottery, Terry was out of luck and back in the hot seat facing a maximum 5-year prison sentence because of some unknown quarrel that brought the case back under a microscope for another look. So the issue here is not him arguing whether he was required to disclose the lottery win to his trustees for his company. He and his legal defense have already admitted that he should have made that clear. What's being argued here is whether he intentionally defrauded his creditors or whether he was truly ignorant of his obligation to disclose the win. And since the major and lesser charges have essentially been flip-flopping throughout the past several years, it's dragging out longer than he would have anticipated. So Terry and his defense team are arguing for the court to order prosecutors to reimburse his legal bills for the past 5 years. The case is currently awaiting a decision, but let us know down below in the comments whether or not you think Terry should have been allowed to conclude the case on the lesser charge and whether it was fair. Normally, people who win the lottery will use the prize to buy a new house after they win, but a North Carolina woman had the opposite happen to her, which is she bought a house and then won $1 million in the lottery a week after buying it. Patricia Simmons works as an in-home aide and recently became a first-time homeowner. She won the lottery and also became a first-time millionaire after giving herself the most expensive housewarming gift yet, a $1 million top prize in the Millionaire Maker scratch-off game from the North Carolina Lottery. That is living up to its name. Between the annuity of $50,000 over 20 years or a lump sum payment of $600,000 all at once, Patricia opted for the lump sum and took home $427,509 after state and federal taxes. For anyone buying a home, especially if this is your first time, it is an exciting but really daunting milestone. Figuring out financing and mortgages is a scary concept for a lot of people because it's not something that's universally taught to everyone everywhere. And Patricia pretty much said the same thing, that she initially had concerns about paying a mortgage every month as a first-time homeowner. But now she's relieved to know that the lottery winnings will take a huge deal of pressure off by helping with the payments. So for the big one, for this final story, if you do this, you're literally the worst, and I pray that you never get away with it, which you probably wouldn't anyway, but I will explain later on why I personally feel that way. So a liquor store clerk and her coworker stole a customer's winning Massachusetts lottery ticket worth $3 million and attempted to cash it in for themselves. Earlier this year in January, an anonymous man walked into Sava's Liquors in Lakeville, Massachusetts, and brought a bag of barbecue potato chips, yum, to the checkout counter. He asked the clerk behind the counter, 23-year-old Carly Nunez, for a couple lottery tickets, 2 quick picks for Mega Millions, and 2 quick picks for Mass Cash. It's important to note that he added the multiplier option to his Mega Millions plays to increase non-jackpot winning prizes, and you'll see why later on. Nunez went over to the lottery terminal to input the order and printed off 2 tickets. She returned to the cash register and rang up the customer's entire purchase, including the chips, for a total of $12. The man then left and drove home with the potato chips, but forgot his lottery tickets in the terminal tray at the store. That same night, one set of numbers on the ticket came up in the Mega Millions drawing, and with the Megaplier option added, it won a $3 million prize. He realized his mistake and briefly looked around for his missing lottery tickets, but gave up thinking that they were just lost. Back at the liquor store, about 45 minutes after he had gone home, a different customer came in to buy lottery tickets. Nunez entered their order into the terminal, printed out the tickets, and handed them over, but the customer realized that they had been given 2 extra tickets, the same ones that had belonged to the man from before, and handed them back to Nunez. She took the tickets and said they must have belonged to him, referring to the guy that had left them behind. 2 days later, her 32-year-old coworker Joseph Redham drove Nunez and her boyfriend to Massachusetts Lottery headquarters to claim the prize, and a customer service representative scanned the ticket and confirmed it was worth $3 million. But it was torn and appeared to be burned. Even still, it was valid, and Nunez and her boyfriend were hugging and cheering that they had just snagged $3 million, or so they thought. Keep in mind they had only just validated the ticket. They haven't been paid out the prize yet. Here's where things started to go downhill for them. Nunez and Redham met up in the lobby of the lottery building where surveillance footage showed them fighting about something, and where lottery officials actually heard them arguing about how to split the prize. Redham was demanding that Nunez give him prize money, but Nunez told him that she would only pay him $200,000. After hearing all this go down, and considering the fact that the ticket was very badly damaged, investigators at the lottery thought something was wrong and decided to interview Nunez before paying out the prize. At first, Nunez told officials that she herself bought the winning ticket at the end of her shift on the day of the drawing and accidentally tore it when she removed it from her wallet. The ticket also had burn marks, which she said was a result of mistakenly placing the ticket on a pipe. The lottery collected her statement and basically said, "Thanks, we'll get back to you shortly, and pay out your prize after we wrap up this investigation." It's a bit silly that people think to lie in situations like these to begin with, rather than just being straightforward and doing the right thing, especially when you know you're in the wrong, because her story was disproven as soon as they opened up that security footage from the store. Right away, it was obvious that it was an unidentified man who bought the ticket, not the cashier, and so investigators sat her down for another interview, and either way, she was caught in a bold-faced lie. So it was either double down on her claim that she was still the one who paid for the ticket, or change up the story and say that she had somehow gotten a hold of it another way. She went with the latter and said that she had, quote, inadvertently obtained the winning ticket. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter what she said, she just got caught lying to the government lottery officials. This past week, she was charged with 1 count each of larceny from a building, attempted larceny, presentation of a false claim, and witness intimidation, while Redham was indicted on 1 count of attempted extortion. Both of them are going to be arraigned on the charges at a later date. On the bright side, this story does have a happy ending, so we get to end our time together on a lighter note. 1 month after the drawing, the true winner realized he had accidentally left the winning ticket at the liquor store, and in the meantime, investigators posted flyers across Lakeville that displayed screenshots of the man in the surveillance video and questioned other customers about his identity. In February, investigators managed to locate and interview the original purchaser of the winning ticket, and the Massachusetts Lottery blessed their hearts, so that they will be paying out the full prize to the man who really bought the ticket. So originally, when we posted the story on Lottery Post, there were a lot of mixed opinions about this kind of story because, in theory, a lottery ticket is a bearer's instrument, which is basically the equivalent of if you see $1 on the street, you pick it up and it's yours, but it's still technically government property. But there is a bit of a difference, and this has kind of stirred up a lot of debate about this. So a lot of people might wonder, well, what if I'm in a parking lot and I see a lottery ticket on the ground? I pick it up, I scan it, and I find out that it's worth $5. Chances are, probably 10 times out of 10, if you go to a cashier or clerk and you cash it in at any lottery retailer, you're just going to get paid out the $5. Not a big deal. But in this case, when you're going to make an official claim on something that is greater than $50,000 in the case for the Massachusetts Lottery, I believe you're allowed to mail in claims of $50,000 and lower. But for anything larger than that, you have to physically go in person to claim that prize because it is a large amount of money that the lottery is dealing out. That's not something they want to get wrong. Pretend you're in the lottery's shoes, and you don't ask any questions, and you pay out $3 million to Nunes. Imagine later on that surveillance footage surfaces of another person buying the ticket. From the lottery's perspective, if you're standing in their shoes, imagine a public story coming out that you paid out $3 million to the wrong person, and there's nothing you can do about it now. That prize has been paid out. Would there be some kind of legal action taken later? I don't know, because it was the lottery's responsibility to do their due diligence before paying out a significant prize like that. So I think that's why that's kind of the difference between these two cases of picking up a random $5 ticket off the street versus intentionally lying and presenting a false claim to the lottery and then possibly the lottery paying out that claim to the wrong person who did not buy it. And you might disagree with me, and even if you do, I will say it is a wonderful thing that the lottery did not pay her out and take her word at face value and did launch an investigation, because in the end, all that matters is the right person did end up taking home their prize, rightfully so. But you might disagree, and if you do, or if you don't disagree and you do agree, let us know down below in the comments. We love hearing your thoughts on stories like these, especially because they're very interesting, and in the end, they're very important to discuss and talk about transparently, because it's a lot of money that we're dealing with here in the lottery. And that's what we have so far in our weekly roundup. And if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like, because it lets us know that you like what you're seeing, and it tremendously helps out the channel by doing so. And don't forget to hit that red subscribe button and notification bell so you can stay up to date on all our latest videos, including ones like these. From all of us at Lottery Post, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Take care.